You guys remember when we got this message from Brother Enigma right here. So what was that? So you'll remember that those were the words of Brother Enigma. He said Jesus told him he didn't want all Ama2000s, all millennium kids, all of them. Doesn't want them.
I'm telling you. Abantwana bama2000 bonke akabafuni.
All of them. Now, if you remember my video, I mentioned that already should have told him and everyone that listened to him the messages he gets are not from God. Now, we just left it there. But I had not thought in depth about the depth of the videos or verses pertaining the age of accountability. One of you guys sent me a video and I thought this video is a perfect example. Shout outs to you, leadership. Thank you very, very much. I highly appreciate it. In this video, someone comes up with this idea that there's no such a thing, and basically the evangelist destroys this conversation.
No such thing as the age of accountability. That was made up.
No, it's not made up. I can show you. So it says, moreover, your little ones and your children, who you say will be victims, who today have no knowledge of good and evil, they shall go in there. To them I will give it, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn and take your journey into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. So right there it speaks of the children who had no knowledge of good and evil. They're actually going to receive the promised land.
So, wait.
Even though the people who were...
So, who had no knowledge? Deuteronomy says. That's a Bible verse. So, who should we believe? Revelation or Revelation? It's not revelation. Revelation. So they had no knowledge of good and evil. There's more.
Were older and actually knew what they were doing, they were the ones that were actually going to be punished and not going to be able to go into the promised land. So this is in Numbers. The carcasses of you who have complained against me shall fall in the wilderness. All of you who were numbered according to your entire number for 20 years old and above, except
20 years and above. So the age of accountability for the Jews was even a little bit more higher. Nowadays, kids hlaganipa way earlier, but 20. Did you hear that?
for Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun, you shall by no means enter the land which I swore I would make you dwell. But your little ones, whom you said would be victims, I will bring in, and they shall know the land which you have despised. But
so the young ones were allowed in, while those, why? Because they were innocent. They were not held guilty to the disobedience of those who were there as adults. That's the age of accountability right there.
as for you, your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness. So that's another place that reveals what the age actually was. And it says from 20 years old and above, those people were going to be judged. So that means from 19 years old and below, God didn't hold them accountable for all the complaining and grumbling and everything else they were doing against God. That would go for someone who's had a miscarriage, even a kid that maybe died at the age of 6 or 7 or at a young age. They don't have the knowledge of good and evil where they truly understand what they're doing, what's right, and even what's wrong. Biblically speaking, those children would go to heaven.
So, that's interesting. That is a very, very interesting video. So thank you very much, leadership. Absolutely appreciate you sending that video. And that video, he highlights those two verses in Deuteronomy chapter number 1 and in Numbers, right? But what I found very interesting as well, alongside this video, was Exodus chapter number 30, right? Exodus chapter number 30 brings up the subject matter of the 20 years and above, So Exodus chapter number 20, verse 30, verse number 14, it does that. It brings back this idea of the age of 20 issue, right? Now, of course, accountability is, because nowadays knowledge and access is much more thingy, and people understand that much. As a matter of fact, if you think of it, all these things are called age of consent. It should be around there. I would definitely thingy. Okay, now even if you go to other verses, there's other verses as well that actually bring up this particular subject. I want to bring them up in their context so that we can look at them here. It's important we know what does the Bible say pertaining to subject matters, and not be duped, okay? Not be confused pertaining these things, okay? When you actually go to Proverbs chapter number 20, in Proverbs it says differing weights and equal measures, both are detestable to the Lord. Even a young man is known by his action. Notice, is known by his. So right there it brings up this subject, and then it says whether his conduct is pure or upright. So there's this idea that when his record is there, basically, as he is now come to the age of accountability. In Proverbs, in Psalms 103, in Psalms 103 here, let me pull it up. When it speaks about the compassion of the father here, it says, right? It says, as a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. For he knows how we are formed. He remembers that we are dust. So there's the idea of the fault. The idea of fault. God knows man is faulty. So he holds us accountable. But then when you read the other verses, it shows. So this actually answers the previous verse. He knows we are thinking, but he's made a way for us to, as children. If you didn't watch the first episode, check the pinned comments. You'll find it there. So right there, we have the idea that he holds the actions to account. Right? And if you go to Nehemiah, okay, this is a very interesting one. Nehemiah chapter number 8. These are the other verses that I thought maybe one or two of them, and then as I cross-reference, they kind of like matched up with the other ones and whatnot. And so I thought, let me add to the video that you just watched right a minute ago. When subject matter points back to the period of Ezra, Nehemiah chapter number 8, verse number 1 up until verse number 3. This is what it says. At that time, all the people gathered together in the square before the western gate, and they asked Ezra, the scribe, to bring the books of the law of Moses, which the Lord had commanded to Israel. Okay. By the way, the law was given to who? To Israel, not you. On the first day of the 7th month, and Ezra the priest brought the law before the assembly of men and women, all who could listen and understand. Accountability. Okay, this is no kid matters. This is no child thingy. Those who could account. So the idea of accountability or age of accountability is biblical. Even the law was given, and the people that said yes, we agree to it, were people that were in understanding. That verse is very clear. That's Nehemiah chapter number 8, verse number 2. Now, if you also go to the story in 2 Samuel chapter number 12. Okay, in 2 Samuel I'll just bring it up. I won't open the whole thing. When you go down here, let us see. This is pertaining the passing of the child, right? This is pertaining the passing of the child. So 2 Samuel chapter number 12, verse number 21, it says, and his attendants asked him, okay, so David and so forth got up from the ground after he had washed, put on lotion and changed his clothes, okay, morning. He went into the house of the Lord and he worshipped, and then he went to his own house, and he at his request they served him food and he ate. Okay, he was in mourning, deep mourning, and he attended and his attendants asked him, why are you acting this way? Why, while the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but now the child is dead, and you get up and eat. Okay, and he answered, while the child was still alive, I fasted and I wept. I thought, who knows, the Lord may be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he is dead, why should I go on fasting? So here you hear this idea of mourning. I wanted to actually do a video on mourning biblically, and this is also another perfect example of healing on how to to actually view it. He says, can I bring him back? I'll go to him, but he will not return unto me. Notice, David is very much aware. He will go to him. Speaking of being in a place, he knew for certain that the child was in a better place right there. He's very, very clear. He understands that right there. And so the idea of a child being in a state of innocence, you can see it also in that verse right there. In Jonah chapter number 4, it's another one that highlights this idea of the age of accountability. Okay, let's say kids are going to hell. That is a very unbiblical thing. You cannot paint God like that. Jonah chapter number 4, verse number 10 up until verse 11. It says, but the Lord said, you cared about the plant. Okay, remember Jonah, he went to deliver the message, and then the people repented. He didn't like it because God didn't bring down fire. So, but then when God raised a plant and God then commanded the plant to die, Jonah was very offended about the death of the plant, but he had forgotten to be concerned for the death of the people that he was so willing to see. Do you see what God did right there? And so you were concerned, you cared about the plant, which you neither tended nor made grow. You didn't make it grow. It sprang up in the night and perished by the night, in the night. So should I not care about the great city of Nineveh? So basically it brings up, now notice what he then says, which has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right from their left, and many cattle alongside. So now here he speaks about the position of dead in the spirit. He's talking about dead in the spirit. So I bring this verse so that we have context, so that someone doesn't one up on you and use that verse to say, wait a minute, that language could apply to people who are old, but they are dead in spirit. No, they are old and are not born again. No, here it's clearly speaking about being dead in spirit, is to being in response to God's grace. Okay, that's what the verse is clearly talking about. It's not saying, oh yeah, by the way, everybody doesn't know their left to their right. There are places where not knowing their left to their right clearly means coming to a place of accountability. Okay, so I threw that verse in there so that you'll have that balance should someone try to one up on you pertaining that. Numbers chapter number 14, we spoke about that. I think that's the one that he read there. And then also Isaiah chapter number 7. Isaiah chapter number 7. Let me see this. Isaiah chapter number 7. When you bring up Isaiah chapter number 7, you can put it up there. He will be eating the curd and honey when he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right. For before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the king of Tarata, he goes back and he then illustrates that there was a period where a child had to come to know a place of accountability. See that? And so this is important, because if a person doesn't have this, they'll be sending kids left and right to hell. Okay, this is very important you understand these verses. Those are a couple of verses. I think there's, if you were to total all of them, almost 8 towards 9, showing the idea of the age of accountability is biblical and it's in the Bible. Y'all tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. I thought to add the other verses alongside the video, the verses that the man mentions in the video. That was very brilliant. And y'all tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. You can add other verses if I didn't, because these are verses that I found either in cross-reference or some of the verses that I knew. But the ones that he read were very clear, and they hit straight on. And it shows you that it doesn't just come now in the New Testament. It's something that was there even in the Old, for the Old Covenant. So age of accountability, there is such a thing biblically. It's Ricky, and I'll see you on a later on. Do not be deceived by people that don't know what they're talking about.